Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a moment in wrestling where it was just like, oh, this will never ever happen, or I don't see any time this will happen, or any way this will happen, or pretty much it'll be a cold day in hell before this happens? We've seen a lot of them. But tonight, we're going to list 10 cold day in hell moments. We're kind of trying to tailor it just into the WWE. So, before we do that, I'm your boy Jimmy Frey. Let's join the fray. Alright, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to my boy DS Legend. He's the one that recommended this video. And also, he has his own YouTube channel. The man is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal wrestling fan and a wonderful belt collector. And I guess he's known in the gaming community as well. But check out his YouTube channel when you get a chance. I'm leaving the link in the description. Yeah, help your boy out. He's awesome. So we're going to list 10 cold day in hell moments in WWE. Now, this is in no particular order, so I'm not going to say number 10 is least and number 1 is most. This is just off the top of my head. Number 10, we're starting with Sting joining WWE. To me, I never thought I'd see the Stinger in WWE because Sting has always represented WCW, or it wasn't even a surprise when he went to TNA, but for him to actually be in the WWF or WWE setting was very unheard of, especially with me coming up always knowing the Stinger to be on that side. Okay, I can understand Ric Flair going to WWF, I can understand Hulk Hogan going to WCW to a point, but Sting joining WWE, I never thought I'd see that coming. As far as if that aged well, I'll let you figure that out. Number 9, Bruno Sammartino in the Hall of Fame. Now, WWE has done a lot of things. I mean, you had the steroid scandal and all that stuff, and throughout some of that, Bruno Sammartino, the real longest WWE champion, or reigning WWE champion there was their biggest critic. He criticized WWE to the point where WWE for a while cut off all relationships and mentions with him. It's almost like Bruno didn't even exist. As popular as the song on Encanto was, WWE did it first. However, they made amends, which I never thought would happen. And as a result, Bruno went into the Hall of Fame, thankfully, before he passed. Now, y'all know me. I'm not a professional speaker or anything, so if this countdown doesn't seem like one that's proper format, or I'm not using the right vocal diction or whatever, you on the wrong page. You should know me by now. Been doing this 3 years, been doing it this way 3 years. I just wanted to say that because I'm just very loose with it. That's why we're going right to number 8, which is WWE buys WCW. Growing up, well, in my era growing up, of course we did have, I'm old enough to where it was also NWA and AWA and WCCW just for a little bit, but for the majority of my childhood, there was WWF, WCW, and ECW. Now, ECW was more of a special interest thing. I didn't really watch it growing up, but WWF and WCW, those were my main two. And I always figured one would eventually destroy the other, but just to buy the other, never thought would happen. especially with that streak that WCW had with the NWO and everything. I never saw that coming. Well, you know what? With the latter years of WCW, I'm not surprised, but even before that, if you ask 13-year-old Jimmy if that was going to happen, no, not at all. Number 7, the Ultimate Warrior in the Hall of Fame.
Ultimate Warrior. Lunatic.
Okay. With Warrior, his relationship with the WWE has been tumultuous, to say the least. From demanding money, to taking the money and no showing events, to WWE just having to flat out fire him for it was just back and forth with it, that to the point where WWE said, okay, enough with this. But good old Trips made it right, and Warrior got inducted into the Hall of Fame right before his untimely death. Number 6, Eric Bischoff in WWE. I never thought I would see that the one single person responsible for punching WWF in the mouth back in the day, one of the few, if only, to do it, would be working for them. Eric and Vince were like polar opposites. They were like two heavyweight fighters in a world championship match, back and forth, and for one to be under the other, that's, like I said, tell 13 or 14-year-old Jimmy that, I would say absolutely not. But things change, I guess. Number 5, an Impact Championship on WWE television. Now, there was a point in time where Impact was the biggest rival to WWE. I mean, it really wasn't much of a rivalry. It was more like a David Goliath, Braun Strowman, James Ellsworth type deal. But even so, TNA did pretty well with their ratings and whatnot. But while TNA would mention WWE a lot, WWE would never mention TNA by name. Even if past wrestlers or future wrestlers came from there, they would never mention TNA or Impact by name at all. The only time, or the first time you ever heard the name, is when Kurt Angle said it in a backstage segment with KO and Sammy. But for Mickie James, the TNA Knockouts champion at the time, to enter the Royal Rumble with the belt as she came down the ring, that was one forbidden door we never thought we'd see in the WWE. I'm still shocked we saw that. And will we see it again? Well, it's a different era, so who knows. Number 4, Shawn and Bret bury the hatchet. So unless you've been living under a rock, or maybe if you're just like 10 years old and don't follow wrestling that deeply, everybody knows the most infamous moment in WWE history, which was the Montreal Screwjob. And even with the Montreal Screwjob and everything that came with it, Bret and Shawn never liked each other. It was like a bitter hatred for the ages, and the Montreal Screwjob just exacerbated that. These two could not stand each other. It was almost like it was impossible to ever see these two reconcile. Yet they did, much to everybody's surprise. While we're on the topic of the Montreal Screwjob, there was another severed relationship after that, and that is number 3. Bret and Vince bury the hatchet. Vince McMahon was the one, in my opinion, that was mainly responsible for the Montreal Screwjob, because he had plenty of options, even at Bret's suggestion, because Bret didn't mind dropping the title. He just didn't want to drop the Shawn. But with Vince being as stubborn as he is, he wasn't going to change that. So instead of working with a man that he's worked with for years, on his transition out, he does one of the most heinous things in wrestling history. How that hatchet got buried, I have no idea, even till this day. I guess anybody could be forgiven for anything. I'm not done with Vince quite yet, because number 2, Vince McMahon stepping down. I know I can't be the only one that thought that Vince McMahon was going to run this company until he was not physically able to do so. Whether he has to be put in hospice, he's in a wheelchair, or bedridden, or whatever. But as long as Vince McMahon was able-bodied, I always saw Vince McMahon leading the WWE as the CEO, chairman, owner, what have you. I never thought I would see him step down. But here's the thing. This was not by choice. Sexual misconduct and the board of directors not wanting that in the company is what led to Vince stepping down. Had it been willing, that would have been even more shocking. But the fact Vince was forced to do this. Now, a lot of people say that this is what forced Vince's hand into selling to Endeavor /TKO or whatever, simply so he can have some power back. How true that is, I don't know, because that's still hearsay. That didn't work out too well for him. But I thought it would be a cold day in hell before Vince gave up the rings while he's still standing on 2 feet. And that brings me to number 1. CM Punk returning to WWE. Some people said they saw this coming. I didn't. I didn't at all. And a lot of people are excited about it. To me, the return to AEW kind of softened it for me a bit. But that's just me. That's just bullshit. But everything that went down with CM Punk, I'm saying the stuff that Triple H was saying in promos, that years later he was proven right with his demeanor in AEW, and everybody seeing Punk in the light that they never thought they'd see him in. I was quite surprised when he signed back with WWE. But here's the thing. The WWE under Endeavor, is that what changed? Because I don't see Vince McMahon letting CM Punk back in the company under any means. And not only that, he's not the only person that had a problem with CM Punk. Apparently a lot of people do. Is that real? Or is it storyline? Which one? Either way, CM Punk coming back to WWE, not just WWE letting CM Punk back in, but CM Punk actually wanting to come back to WWE is super shocking. And I definitely thought it would be a cold day in hell before that were to ever happen. Now, I could only list 10. If there's any more moments that could have made this list, let me know in the comments. With that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for joining the fray. You made it all the way to the end of the video, but did you subscribe though? If not, considering subscribing so that you're notified of every video we make and becoming a member of the Fray family. One of us, one of us, one of us. Okay. Thank you for joining the Fray. Good night.